And so I simply sat in this favorite place of mine and stayed with the tone of the movement that was in process until it was time for me to emerge, at which time I simply went back into the tune. Just a moment. Paul is inserting himself into the process here, wondering why on earth I would go back into the tomb. If I didn't need to. You'll have to excuse him. Just a moment, I'm sorry. Just a moment. I'm sorry for getting in the way. Just a moment. It was there that I was to meet with Mary Magdalene. Well, I'm going to put it this way. When we do a gathering, Paul finds himself in a different state, so to speak. It doesn't feel abnormal to him in any way. Right now it doesn't. But whenever the gathering is over, there is for lack of better words, a coming down or a reconnecting with his environment as he normally perceives it. This is something I wish he wouldn't do, but he does. In order to relate to Mary, it was necessary to shift from for lack of better words, the very pure and rarefied energy of the tone that I was maintaining while I was out of the tomb. It was necessary for me to, again for lack of better words, move back into the level from which Mary would be approaching me so that she could see me. And it was the most, inside the tomb was the most effective place to do it at that time. And so that's what I did between the time the stone was rolled to close the tomb and the time the stone was rolled to open the tomb. If you want me to be precise, I returned to the tomb about an hour before Mary came. And about 45 minutes before she arrived, the stone was moved out of the way to fulfill purpose. I'm going to take advantage of what just happened here, because when any of you allow yourself to move into a space where you're not being consistent, where you are open to the unexpected, and you are being unconditional, you will be surprised to find that right in the face of the fact that you would like to know the truth that goes beyond what you have known before, there's always a part of you that thinks it knows the truth, and when it sees an inconsistency, it jumps in to assert its point of view. In other words, the ego is always ready with a contradictory opinion about anything, including that which it never heard of before. And it can distract you from continuing to be interested in the influx of truth, because the ego would rather nitpick an inconsistency that is based only on its desire to distract you from successfully moving out of its control. And the call, when that happens, is for you to persist quietly and gently, as Paul did, in hearing the truth, whether the ego likes to hear it or not. That's the end of the answer.
My second question is, much has been talked about from different sources about the evolution of humanity as the year 2012 approaches, the end of the Mayan calendar. Much has been said about potential divinity or other sources that might have guided the accuracy of that calendar. And you have referred to it before, and many other people, as if it might be the age of enlightenment, where humanity evolves from a third dimension to a potential fifth dimension, where we, through our spiritual progression, may be given sight of new laws and new principles and new ways of living. Is that in truth an age of enlightenment that may lead to true peace in the world?
The answer to your question is yes. But you don't have to wait until 2012 to do it. And in fact, the more of you who actively engage in joining with the Holy Spirit, which is nothing more than your right mind, which has been held in trust while you've dallied with the ego, you lessen, as I've said before, you lessen the density of the dream. You lessen the density of the human condition, making it easier for everyone else to let go as well. You can't be forced against your will to wake up. But I'll tell you something. When there's no one to join with you in being willful, it's no longer any fun. And it becomes almost impossible to maintain it alone. And so in that sense, the last few stragglers, the last few holdouts, will in fact awaken faster than they choose to. Not because they're being forced, but because the utter misery of isolation and private authority will be so obviously awful, because there aren't a lot of others to help cushion the pain and the suffering associated with it. There's no one else to convince them or to confirm to them that what they're engaging in being independent, is really satisfying. There won't be mutual agreement that says, yes, you're trying to do the impossible is a worthwhile thing, because when you accomplish it, you're going to be somebody. When you don't have a community or a society that is confirming that, it's much more difficult to be fooled. So, none of you can force anyone else to wake up, but by waking up yourselves, you can make it more difficult for them to stay asleep. Okay, hands. The gentleman here.
In the context of the kingdom of heaven is at hand, could you talk a little bit about this? I have two questions. One is this: in the context of the kingdom of heaven is at hand, can you talk a little bit about the words, I thirst? And the other one is, what is your current relationship with the city of Rome and all the energies there?
I have no more connection with Rome than I do with Kingston or Los Angeles or the inhabitants thereof. My involvement is with anyone and everyone who has arrived at a point of becoming dissatisfied with the goals and the means of achieving those goals that they have been employing, because they are realizing that they're not going to be able to accomplish them, that they're not fulfilling, and that there is an emptiness in them that can't be fulfilled by what they've been seeking, and who therefore have genuinely turned toward God or turned toward me, or turned toward the Holy Spirit. Believe it or not, there are some in Rome like that. And all over the globe, there are, to one degree or more, to one degree or another. I want you to elaborate a little bit more on the first part of your question.
It is said among the words on the cross that toward the end were the words, "I thirst."
Yes. Another way of putting it would be, I yearn. The brotherhood is not experiencing its wholeness while some part of it is denying it and choosing to have a private, personal experience of the kingdom of heaven and of themselves. Those who have not indulged in exploring the so-called experience of independence are not really capable of feeling empty or of being frustrated or of feeling sad but everything within them is attentive to the filling of the void made by those who are denying their conscious experience of who they are, of how they fit into the brotherhood, and how all of us together constitute the perfect expression of glorifying God by embodying and extending nothing other than the fullness of God that God is expressing through all of his creation. The dreaming of dreams has been going on a long time. And so the desire, the yearning, the thirst is very well established and very definite. We all recognize, those of us who are not dreaming dreams, recognize that the dreams you're having aren't real, and therefore do not change what God is, and also don't constitute real experiences for those having the dreams. So we are not attentive to those dreaming for the purpose of relieving them of their suffering. We are attentive to them for the purpose of being available the moment they have the slightest intention to reach outside of the circumference of their declaration of independence. They're living as though they're independent and separate, so that we might support their outreach and nurture it further. We are attentive, for lack of better words, with great seriousness, great depth of intent, because we know what the birthright is of everyone who's ignorant of it, and we also know the joy that will be experienced when all those who have chosen to imagine they can be independent reunite with us so that the brotherhood as a whole has perfect integrity. And so our attention is serious, but not with doubt, and not with impatience, and with ever-present, I'm going to say, anticipation of the joy of reunion, even if it's just a little bit at a time with each one, as that one decides to say, help, and reach out beyond whatever capacity he thinks he has to be successful in his own right, on his own. Oh, yes. The love of every one of the brotherhood, I mean by that, the love that those who are awake have for every one of the brotherhood is one of undivided intent to be present to rejoice with each one who begins to make his journey home. And so the word thirst was not too strong a word. The word yearning is not too strong a word. The only thing is that you normally associate those words with a perceived sense of lack, which you're not happy about. Whereas we mean by those words the great desire to be able to rejoice fully without anything inhibiting the communion of the whole brotherhood in joy. That's the best way I can put it into words.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Paul's getting in the way again. He knows that I'm about to say that it's time to call it a day, and he doesn't want to call it a day because he thinks it's unfair to you because we started late, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so he delayed sharing. But it is in order for us to finish at this time. And if I stop speaking, it's over, whether he wants it to be over or not. One thing you'll find is, as you get in touch with your guides or have ongoing experiences of being in touch with your guide or the Holy Spirit, is that your guide will never cater to your ego. Not always a happy situation for you, because you have certain investments in protocols and rules of etiquette as to what constitutes politeness and decency. But you know what? And this is something Paul is still having to learn. He's not in charge. And there is an order of things that is divinely set in place. And waking up is learning to yield to that without objection. So don't feel bad if you find yourself objecting. Paul still objects. I have enjoyed being with you all. I love you. But mind you, I love you all as equals. It isn't me, someone special, loving all you inconsequential idiots. Who could be so much more than you are. Now, I did not make up those words. The tendency, your tendency in relating to me is to make me more than you. You do it. And I'm saying, stop it. Just as much as this glass and this leaf is right now an idea, right now you are not a mortal. You're my brothers and sisters. We are equals. We are cut out of the same cloth. And if you stand in awe of me, you won't be real with me. You won't say shit and fuck. Will you? Paul doesn't say it either, and he doesn't like it when I do, but if you can't be real with me, we have no starting point for being consciously in relationship with each other. And there will be no way for you not to be, in some ways, afraid of me. And that will absolutely inhibit any real, meaningful communion that would be transformational for you. He just said to me, "Gotcha again." Well, what it meant was that I don't like to use the F word. And he got me again. Okay, just a moment. Enough said. I look forward to being with you again, and I'm just as available to you as I'm available to Paul every moment. It's not a special relationship I have with him. And no matter what he thinks of himself, he doesn't have a special talent. He doesn't hold a special position. He didn't do something to become worthy of hearing me. And neither do any of you. The only thing you have to do is the one thing he did. He sat down one night and he said, "Help." And then he listened for help. And when he didn't hear anything, he sat down the next night and said help with all the genuineness he could feel. And when he didn't hear anything, he sat down the next night. And he persisted until he heard. He said help and listened until he heard. Every one of you is capable of that. Okay. Thank you.